Last time we looked at the monopoly, and here is the monopoly demand curve, here's the marginal revenue curve, and here's the marginal cost curve. And we saw that the monopolist, just like a perfect competitor, will produce at the output where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. Right there. Here's marginal cost, here's marginal revenue. Bang. That's how much they're going to produce. And they're going to charge what the market will bear at that quantity, which is given to us by the demand curve. Now, the demand curve also, of course, that's going to be the price. And it's the average total revenue okay. The big difference is from perfect competition is instead of marginal revenue being in here, it's over here. And that's what changes things. Well, how is the monopoly making a profit or not? Well, that all depends on where the average total cost curve is. If the average total cost curve is up there, they're not. Just having a monopoly doesn't guarantee you're going to make money, or make an economic profit. So here's average total cost. So we can see that average total cost is higher than the price, and which is, keep this simple, remember this is average total revenue. So we have average total cost exceeding average total revenue. See, once you've got all the stuff over here, it's just a matter of looking at what's bigger than what. We see average total cost greater than average total revenue, so it's an economic loss. Okay. Are they going to shut down in the short run? Well, it depends on where the average variable cost curve is. Let's say that's here. And again, you start here with the quantity, and then you go up and pick them off. Okay, this quantity, average variable cost is right there. Well, average revenues are greater than their average variable cost. So if they're covering their average variable cost, remember the rule is they loss minimize in the short run by operating. Because remember, if they shut down, they still have to incur the fixed cost. Fixed cost on a per unit basis is average total cost minus average variable cost. That gives us average fixed cost. So it'd be this distance. See, this part's no different than perfect competition. This distance is their loss if they shut down. Times it by the number of units, times it by Q, and that's their loss. If they operate, they're only losing from here to here. Okay, so this, would you rather lose this distance or this distance? Okay, so they, again, since they're covering their variable costs, they loss minimize by staying open in the short run. Of course, if this continues into the long term, if this is a permanent situation, they're going to exit the industry. Okay, here's what we really don't like about monopoly. This is the fundamental problem right here. The firm will produce this quantity. They're going to charge this price. Here's the problem. The perfect competitor, which is a model of efficiency, remember here's the price equals marginal revenue equals average total revenue. Okay, here's the marginal cost. They'll produce where marginal cost equals marginal revenue. But another way to look at that is they produce where price equals marginal cost. Remember, we looked at marginal cost as the value of the resources used to produce the product, and price is the value society places on the product. So if they produce at a point where the value society places on the product is equal to the value of the resources used to make the product, that's good. Is that the case over here with monopoly? It is not. Where is that point where price equals marginal cost? Well, here's marginal cost. The price is given by, well, let's write all that in, price and average total revenue. It's given by the demand curve. That's right there. So here, clear out there, this is the socially optimal level of output right here. The monopoly is only producing here. And this is the price. This is the price at which the value society places on this good is equal to the value of the resources used to make the good. Here. So here, let me put that in red. That and that is where they ought to be. Okay, that's where we would like them to be. So the central problem is the monopoly underproduces and overcharges. They produce this amount here instead of this amount here. They charge up here instead of charging here. Now, going back a few chapters, that area is dead weight loss. Dead weight loss. Here's the value society places on the good. Here's the value of the resources used to make the good. This is bigger than this. This is value. This is economic surplus that is lost. It is lost. If they would produce out here, all this economic surplus would be available, but it's not. So the monopolists, again, they underproduce and they overcharge, which results in dead weight loss, loss of economic surplus, and we don't like it. So what do we like about monopoly? We sure don't like the fact they underproduce and overcharge. But one good thing about monopoly is that they are in a great position to undertake expensive research and development. Okay. Since they can make those economic profits long term, and that is a feature of monopoly, a characteristic, is because they don't have competition, they don't have new firms coming in and bidding away economic profits, they can maintain economic profits in the long run. So that's a central characteristic, that is possible, unlike with perfect competition, where you're not going to make economic profits long term. If you do make economic profits for a while, entry of new firms will bid those profits away. Monopoly won't have new firms. They've got protection. So since they do have these economic profits, we call them monopoly profits, they can do expensive research and development. They're in a position where they can actually do that. The problem is they lack incentive to do it. why burn up a bunch of cash researching new stuff when you can make good monopoly profits just by being a monopoly? You have protection. And there have been cases, actually, where they have squashed new technology coming from elsewhere. There was a famous case out in California years ago. I've forgotten the exact details. It was a light bulb, some kind of light. This company had a monopoly. They had these light posts or something. And this new light was invented, and they would have had to replace who wants to replace all those light posts? Nobody. But what they did is they bought the technology from the developer, promising to aggressively use it, and didn't. So that went to court, and the developer won. So yeah, they can actually impede research and development, because who wants to replace a bunch, expensive equipment or whatever, if they don't have to? Also, okay, sorry about that. Entrepreneurial incentives. This is to incentivize people to invent stuff, develop new stuff. You can get a patent, okay? And that gives you a monopoly. Not forever, but you've got those monopoly profits available, and can make a lot of money. So that's a good thing for a monopoly. A good incentive. Economies of scale is another argument in favor of monopoly. Here's the long-run average cost curve. Okay. And let's say this is 10 units. And this is an average cost of 20. This is 30 units. An average cost of 10. Well, let's say the market is... this is the entire market for this particular good. 30 units is the market. That's total demand. Which is better? To have 3 firms producing 10 at an average cost of $20 per unit, or have 1 firm producing all 30 units at an average cost of 10? Well, that's pretty clear that this is a lot better. Have 1 firm produce 30. This is, again, because of economies of scale. Large-scale production processes can be used here to cut costs per unit, whereas smaller-scale production, not as efficient, has a higher cost of 20. So what you do in this case is you let the monopoly exist, but you regulate them. Okay, that's the key. We normally don't let monopolies exist, not long term. We'll let patent monopolies last for a few years, but we do not let them go forever. So, in the case of economies of scale, allow the monopoly to exist, but regulate them. So how does this regulation thing work? Okay, here we have the monopoly. operating merrily along, producing this quantity, charging this price. Well, again, we would like them to be producing at where price equals marginal cost, which is right here. So how do we get them out there? Well, one way is just to tell them, boom, this is the price you can charge. Okay, set the price, and this effectively becomes the marginal revenue because they get this price for each unit they sell. This is the marginal revenue now, and they will go out to where marginal revenue equals marginal cost right here. I didn't draw that as pretty as I should have. Yeah, there we go. That's the idea. That's the general idea. I mean, this is easier said than done. This is, it's hard in practice to find marginal cost, and it's hard to get this, to regulate. Some have said that regulation fails at every turn. That they're so bad at this. So, but that's the idea. That's what they're attempting. And that would get them out here. And that would eliminate all this deadweight loss is gone if they produce this right here. So that's the general idea, is to try to get them out, stop, and then get this down, okay, and get the monopoly from exercising its market power, underproducing and overcharging. We don't like that. Another way to get the monopolist or the monopoly can use to actually, on its own, is to price discriminate. Price discrimination is actually used not just for monopolies, but any firm facing a downward sloping demand curve, which is really anything other than the perfectly competitive industry. So this doesn't apply only, this applies not just to monopoly, but also to other firms as well. So here's how that works. Okay, if we got 1 unit produced, the monopoly can charge 10 for that. 2 units, 8. And 3 units, 6. Now, let's make this simpler and say this is person A, this is person B, this is person C. So these are 3 separate people. Now, let's take a look at the total revenue. If they charge 10, they can sell 1 unit and total revenue is 10. If they lower the price to 8, they can sell 2 units. That's total revenue of 16. If they lower the price to 6, they can sell 3 units. Total revenue is 18. Now, let's look at that under price discrimination. Price discrimination is selling the product to different customers for different prices. Okay, that's what that is. And we see it all over the place. It is everywhere. And I'll give those examples in a minute, but let me show you first why they would want to do it. Okay, now, if they can sell their good to person A for $10 and person B for $8. See, B's only willing to buy it for $8. That's their reservation price. The only way they can get B into the market without price discrimination is just to lower the price to 8. And both, see, A is A's willing to pay 10, but he gets to pay 8 when they lower the price to 8 to sell 2. But if they can charge A $10 and B $8, they make more money. So that, well, let's put that here. $10 from A, $8 from B. The revenues are 18 under price discrimination. Now, if they can do that again, charge A 10, B 8, and person C 6, instead of lowering the price to 6, and charging all three $6, well, they can total revenue is now up to 24, where before it was only 18. So through price discrimination, they've increased their revenues. They can sell 2 units and get $18 of revenue instead of 16. They can sell 3 units and get $24 instead of 18. Basically what they're doing is they're walking down the demand curve, charging those with high reservation prices, high prices, those with low reservation prices, low prices. The key is to be able to separate people. Somehow find a way that they can't use arbitrage either. And they got to prevent person C from buying it at 6 and then turning around and selling it to person A for 10. See, that's what they've got to stop. That if people use arbitrage, unless they can start, that's buying in one market, selling in another. So C buys it at 6 and turns around and sells it to A for 10. Price discrimination is not going to work. Okay, it's not going to. So that's the key right there. And can they do it? Well, yeah, we see firms do that all the time. Here are some examples of price discrimination. Movie theaters. What do? Do they sell tickets for the same price to everybody? No, they do not. They sell it for kids. Kids pay a different price. Senior citizens pay a different price than regular adults, okay? Students pay a different price if they show their student ID. So you can determine basically who's the least elastic and charge them the highest price, and those who are more elastic, charge them a lower price. Okay, we already saw how airlines do that. Okay, they're the masters of price discrimination. By trying to determine if you're a business traveler or a vacationer, basically by how long you stay. Do you stay over a weekend, and how far in advance you get the ticket and all that. Restaurants are very good at it. How do restaurants do it? Well, here's the thing. Restaurants would love to increase the number of customers they've got. And they could do that by lowering the price. But they don't want to lower the price for everybody. They'd like to charge their regular, faithful customers the same price and just lower it for the newcomers. How could they do that? Well, usually through the use of coupons. The regular customers, they come all the time, they're not, you might have some of them might find a coupon, but, the new customers are going to come in. You have to have a coupon. You've got to have a hurdle. This is the hurdle. You got to have a coupon. Chances are regular customers are just going to come because they come all the time, but the restaurant is going to try to get new business through coupons. So that way they keep their regular customers paying the regular price, and the new customers, They introduce them, they bring them in through the use of a coupon. Doctors and lawyers, especially lawyers and tax preparers will often, who know your income, okay, will charge different prices to different people based on their income. Also, the use of rebates, that's a popular one. A rebate. Well, you can keep the price high, and for the person with the high reservation price, and then the person who with a lower reservation price, you don't actually lower the price, but you say, however, this comes with a rebate, which effectively lowers the price for them. Well, you've got people with high reservation prices, high value of their time. They may think they're going to deal with the rebate, but they end up not doing it. A lot of people end up not mailing in the rebate. But those who do get a lower price. So what you're effectively doing is you're charging those with high reservation price the higher price, and those with lower reservation price the lower price. Now I went through that. I'll always remember a computer I bought. Okay, had a substantial rebate, fairly good one. See, the price without the rebate was more than I wanted to pay. Oh, but it had a rebate. Well, I went home, I hooked this thing up, I had all the wires, it was under the desk, and everything was plugged in, under the desk and right next to the wall and all in there, and I thought, I'm gonna have to fill out this rebate stuff. Now, keep in mind, the company doesn't want you to fill out the rebate. They don't want you to get the rebate. And they do several things to keep you from getting it. So they're selling the rebate, but they're going to make you jump through several hurdles to actually get it. So time goes on and on and on and on. I thought, you know what? I got to do this. Okay. So I get out the thing. They want the date, purchase date. They want a copy of the receipt. They want the store number, the name of the store, the address of the store, all this mundane stuff just to be annoying. And then they want the serial number of the computer. They want some other numbers, which the serial number is like 500 digits long. So now I'm under there. I look up the store, the name and number and the phone number and the date of purchase, and I'm filling all this stuff out. And then I got to crawl under the desk. I've got to look at the 500-digit serial number. I got a flashlight, so I'm writing all this stuff down. Finally, I get all this paperwork done, and I notice that it has expired. I diddle-daddled too long to get it. I did exactly what they were hoping to do. Now, another thing they do is they disguise the rebates as junk mail. Okay, if you get through all the red tape, all the mundane store address, phone number, serial numbers, product number, all that, and you fill it out exactly right, because, it has to be filled out exactly right, or they're going to reject it. Then they're going to send you a check disguised as junk mail, hoping you throw it out. And a lot of people do. So, rebates, that's a sneaky little way of price discrimination. Another famous case of price discrimination was done by Amazon. Now, does Amazon know a lot about you? Oh yeah, they know a lot about you. And, okay, for example, if I'm buying books, let's say, on how to manage my multi-million-dollar fortune, and I'm buying books like that, Amazon has an idea of how wealthy I am, right? If I'm buying books on how to go through bankruptcy or how to avoid foreclosure and, stuff like that, yeah, they know something about me. So, extreme examples, but you get the idea. They know a lot about you and they can make a good estimate of what you have. Now, it so happens that a lawyer, of all people, discovered this and filed a suit against them. See, he had been on Amazon in his account, and he happened to be at a party at a friend's, and for one reason or another, they got on the computer to look at something, and he saw that it was a different price. He was being charged more than his friend. Aha! Well, Amazon, the whistle blew on them, and they stopped doing that. Financial aid. Now, colleges deny they do this, but they do it all the time, especially colleges that are on the margin. They're on the bubble. Okay, these small liberal arts colleges, for example, so many of them, they need to get so many students in there or they're not going to make it. So, financial aid. And these colleges are very expensive. A lot of people can't afford them, so they rely on financial aid to get these students in. Well, okay, an extreme example again, just to hit the point. You're a financial aid officer, and you've got 2 applications, okay, that you're trying to figure out. Tell me who's going to get the most financial aid. You've got someone who applied the first day that applications were accepted, the first day. And in that application, that student says that I've been dreaming of going to this school my whole life. I will do anything to come to school there. Okay. I think you've got that student. Okay, you've got the student. No matter what, that student's coming. Now, the other student says something like, the other student applies the last day applications are accepted, mentions that he has been accepted at several other schools, and just kind of got, decided the last minute to apply at this school. Okay. Who are you going to have to give the largest financial aid package to bring in there? Well, the second student. Okay. You're going to have to give them a boatload to bring them in. The first poor kid, you hardly have to give him anything. So again, colleges say they don't do it, but the evidence is they do. They do this. They will do this to try to market the school and give the financial aid. They have a given amount of financial aid, and they will. Now here's the other thing you got to consider before you implement a financial aid strategy. The one who applies on the first day is more likely to get in. Okay. The guy who applies on the last day is less likely to get in. Everything else the same. I'm just saying you got 2 students who, so there's a different admission strategy from a financial aid strategy. So, you have to look at that as well. But do they just give everybody the same amount of financial aid? No, they don't. Even if the students are identical in every way, they will often, try to determine who they can get away with giving less and still bring them in, and who they might have to give more to bring on in. And there will be various models of the same product. Various models, different models. Okay? Like books. When books come out, they have a hardcover. That's quite expensive. And then a softback, paperback, comes out a year later. Much cheaper. But the cost of production is minimal. Okay? It's two ways to sell essentially the same product at vastly different prices, even though the cost of production is virtually the same. The hurdle is you have to wait a year. Okay? Can't get it. If I'm a big fan, I'm going to, Harry Potter comes out, I'm going to be waiting in line, buying the hardback, paying a fortune. Those who can stand to wait a year, no problem. Buy it for cheap. There's also movie releases. The first run theaters charge the highest price when the movie's first out. A few months later, it goes to these little theaters that are, kind of run down. You get it for cheaper. And then later it comes out in DVD. And then later it's on TV, a few years down the road. And I remember trying to make a deal with my kids. I can't remember the name of the movie. It was coming out. They were so excited about it. I said, hey, why don't we, instead of going to the movie and paying all that money, waiting in line and all that, I'll take the money and I'll invest it for you. And it'll earn interest that we would have spent it on this movie. And then 5 years from now, I'll pull out the money and I'll give you the money and all the interest, and we'll go and we'll watch it for free on TV. Well, that didn't go very far, as you can imagine. So, the hurdle is time. You have to wait. Okay, software, we have student editions, pay cheaper prices, all that. Same product, different prices. And going back to the different models, I'll tell you this. This affected me. A few years ago, we bought a minivan. We bought a Chrysler, a Dodge Caravan. So here's the demand curve, okay? And here at the top is the Chrysler Town and Country. That is for people with high reservation prices. Okay, here in the middle is the Dodge Caravan. Dodge. And down here, they don't make the Plymouth Voyager now, but they used to. This is back when they did. Down here. So they've got 3 different products. Except for this, they're the same product. There's hardly any difference. These are essentially the same car. The Town and Country has some bells and whistles that this one doesn't have. This has a few bells and whistles that this doesn't have. So, however, the difference in cost of those bells and whistles is minimal. The difference in price between these 3 was quite big. So you've got, a few bells and whistles that are different, maybe a few $100 difference, but the difference in price was several $1,000s. So differentiation. Here you're appealing to those who have a little more money, want a little more status. Down here you got the middle, and down here you got the poor guy. Well, you know what? I'm not a car guy. I'm just not. I don't care about cars. To me, it's just a hunk of metal that gets you from A to B. I derive no status from such a thing, so I don't care. I bought this. Okay, so what? The kids are going to trash it anyway, right? They're going to spill French fries and drinks. So, I paid this. But you know what? You pull up next to a town and country at a stoplight. Oh, my goodness. Like I say, some people actually care about that. I couldn't care less. So no way I'm paying this when I can get the same thing for here. Good enough. But, they do that all the time. Essentially the same product. There's often a deluxe version of a particular product. There's always going to be a deluxe version that has just a few more little, extra fancy paint or something like that, just to differentiate it, that costs a few bucks more, but they'll charge way more than that. That's snob appeal, I guess. I don't know. That's what we used to call it when I was a kid. So, price discrimination. We see it everywhere, and it's what it does. What it does is it gets, what Chrysler does, and Chrysler owns Dodge and Plymouth, and they finally got rid of Plymouth. I guess some of these car companies, they decided to simplify it a little bit. I think GM got rid of, was it Buick? I think they got rid of Buick. So, they've had all these brands. They're essentially the same, but then they tweak them a little differently. That's just walking down the demand curve, basically. So, but here's what it does. Instead of producing this many, if they can price discriminate, they'll actually increase their output to here. And if they can price discriminate further, they increase their output to here. So price discrimination actually helps. And if you read in the book, it talks about price discrimination among drug companies. It actually allows them to sell in developing countries for a lot cheaper, a lot lower price than they can sell here. And if they weren't able to price discriminate, they wouldn't be able to sell these drugs at all to those countries. Now, as you'll read in there, it talks about a case where another company would go in there, those countries, and buy it up and then bring it back here and sell it. And that sort of thing is what was happening with in Canada. Drug companies have extremely high costs, and to develop a new drug is extremely expensive, and they have so many failures. I mean, they might have 10 drugs that fail, that don't get approved, and they spend all that money. So when they do get a winner, that one has to recover all the costs for all the other ones that didn't make it. That's why pharmaceuticals are expensive when they first come out, for sure. But they would sell in other countries for lower, at basically their marginal cost. And they would separate, the markets are separate. So they were doing that to Canada. They would sell the drugs to Canada for lower price than they do in the U.S. Because why not? Two separate markets. Except for then people started going to Canada and bringing it back. So that kind of messes up their price discrimination strategy. So anyway, price discrimination, trying to sell different markets for different prices. You got to keep arbitrage from happening. You got to keep people from buying and then selling to each other. That kind of thing, like at the movies. How do they keep me going in and getting a 12 and under ticket? Well, the tickets are different colors. That's how they used to do it. But now, it might say on the ticket, student or child or adult or senior citizen, and the person taking the ticket can just look at you and say, hey, wait a minute, this doesn't apply to you. So, you got to be able to enforce it. But it actually ends up overall to be a good thing in that it gets firms to produce more than they otherwise would.